Hey, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing a oil cooler replacement on this 2017 Jeep JK 3.6 Pentastar. You could use this for any Jeep that uses the 3.6 or the Ram trucks. I don't know that it would be the same on a front wheel drive application, but you could use this for the oil cooler replacement if you need to replace fuel injectors, or if you want to do plugs and coils. This would be the same steps as far as removing the plenum and the intake to get to the oil cooler. So hope you enjoyed the video. Okay, so if you are doing something that requires you to take off the intake and get to the fuel injectors or below, such as the oil cooler, what you want to do here in this picture is get to the fuse box and remove the fuel pump fuse. Then go into the car and try to start it. Let the fuel cycle out of the fuel rail, and that will greatly help you avoid spills of gasoline. Okay, some of the helpful hints that you're going to have here is jacking the Jeep up and taking the wheels off, removing the inner fender liners, and that's going to give you access to the brackets that hold on the plenum, and I'm also going to be removing the air box just to give you plenty of room inside it. Okay, so another thing you're going to see me do is take out the air box when you're disassembling all this. Me personally, I just like to have a lot of room, so you just grab the air box and tilt it back and lift it up. Not a big deal. Again, we're trying to create the biggest, cleanest working space that we can inside here once we start tearing this top of this engine down. Making videos is not as easy as it seems, because you always have to remember to stop and explain what you're doing. So up here where you can't see, there's two bolts. Let me get these out. Alright, so they look like that. And you only get these through the fender well. And when you're doing this job, it will make your life so much easier than trying to reach your hand down there from the top. So there's one, and the other one's over there behind that oxygen sensor. But those are the ones that you want to get for the bracket for the plenum. One thing that I did that I forgot to mention, or it didn't make it in the edit, was to drain the oil before you start this job. Alright, so we just took the plenum off. So here's what it looks like underneath. So as you're taking it off, I'm trying to do this without dropping stuff. You'll have two bolts that you need to take out there. I took mine out, I just never put them back in. It's not necessary. It's definitely just a kind of a bracket to hold that together. And then these, you can just move out of your way as you need to. I just did his job, so I'm not going to replace these gaskets because it's literally has like 2 miles on it since I replaced them last, and these are Felpro. My opinion, the best gaskets for this job. Now, if you are going to be doing fuel injectors, then you have two options. You can take the fuel rail off here, and it goes around. There's a hose in the back right there that connects to this fuel rail here, and you can get to the fuel injectors right there. I've seen videos where guys leave the intake on and try to replace those. If you're only doing one, number one, there's a couple rules or thoughts on that. This job sucks. If you're going to do one, you might as well do all of them. I replaced this. This is a JK, and the last time I did this with this last oil cooler, not 2 weeks ago, I swapped these out and put JL fuel injectors in them. They have double the little spouts or holes in the fuel injectors, so it gets you twice the amount of fuel out there on demand. So again, I would recommend, if you're up for it, taking the intake out and do it on a bench. It's way easier. Just remember going back to step one and taking the fuel pump fuse out, trying to start the car, and then that should evacuate a lot of, if not all, the fuel out of the fuel rail. Because if you don't, and you go to do this job on the bench, or even if you're doing it here, you're going to have gas everywhere. This fuel rail holds a lot of fuel. So our next step is to take the intake off. I'm not doing fuel injectors on this time, obviously, so I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to leave the fuel rail attached to the intake, and it's got a disconnect here, and then just lift the whole thing out. And then the oil cooler lies directly underneath of this intake, and that's where the fun begins. So all right, so got it out, and then you can see the mess down in the valley there. Definitely made a big difference draining the oil and clamping off that coolant hose way back there. So now I'll just put some shop towels down in there and dry that up. So this one right here is the big one that was fighting me so hard. And then I think as I was rocking it back and forth, the screw threaded itself again. So I backed these three out here, and then you saw it come out right there at the end. I'll edit that so you can skip some of the boring tug of war. But like I said, I had just put this one in, and then the pressure sending unit, which I think it was that one, and I think that one's coolant. I'm not sure about that, but the sending unit was bad, so I spent more money, got one from AutoZone. This was like, I think 40 or 60 bucks on Amazon, and then I had to pay almost $300 for this one. So unfortunately, with some things you get what you pay for. So now, if that had worked, it'd been great, but it didn't. So now I'm doing the job twice. So saving money isn't always the best option. And then again, there's that. I am also going to be replacing the starter on this vehicle again, because there's few things on these 3.6 liters that give you issues. Alternator's one. My previous Rubicon, the alternator, I put a new one on there and it overcharged and it fried the wires. So I had to go to jeepcables.com and replace all of that. And let me tell you, that was a job. Starters will give you fits. And it's like, if you have not ever done the plugs and coils at this point, now would be the time to do them while you have all this tore apart. So the plugs, if you don't know, are down inside here, and you have 6 coils. I got these MSDs because I thought they were, back in the day on a small block Chevy, MSD was the bomb. And so when I did a tune up on this, of course, I got the MSD. I've used them 3 or 4 times, but this set, that coil went bad. So fortunately, you can replace that without having to take all this apart, because there's enough room to reach in there and pop it off, put the new one on. But yeah, I don't know if I'll buy MSD again, because like I said, doing these jobs twice is not fun. Alrighty, that's a wrap for this project. So as you saw, double check, make sure your oil's back in. Just double check everything as you're putting them back together, because you don't have to take this stuff apart just because you forgot to hook up a fuel injector or a coil. So just double check all your connections. You know, if you're zip tying these up out of the way, make sure you get them back in the right order. All your vacuum lines are hooked back up, and all the nuts and bolts are back on the motor and not left over in your tray. So all I gotta do now is put the bolts back in there, tighten up that bracket, and put the fender liners on and take it for a test drive. So we'll wrap it up and I'll let you know how it turned out. Okay, at this point we're reassembling, and the thing to remember about these 3.6 liters engines is everything is plastic. And I touched on this earlier, I don't know if it made it into the edit or not, but the plenum and the intake only take like 5 newton meters of torque, which is practically nothing. So I would run them down however you want to run them down, and then just give it a snug with the wrench. I would not use any type of impact on reassembly, because I did break an impact or an intake on one of my previous Jeeps, and that is not a cheap fix if you go with Mopar parts. But that's pretty much it for this video. I know it was lengthy. My superpower is I overshare. So hope it helps somebody. If not, maybe the next one will be better. Thanks for watching, and please like, share, and subscribe to all your Jeep buddies. Have a great day.